Interdisciplinarity, the idea that academics from across different disciplines work together, has become a fashionable concept of late, but it's always been well known here at Kent. In fact, when the builders were creating the first buildings of the university, those in charge were making plans as to how to foster a more collaborative approach. Geoffrey Templeman, the university's first Vice-Chancellor, laid out the idea in an interview with Southern TV in 1964.
We have intended to try to make this university, in a very real sense, a community of masters and scholars, to use the old term. And the reason for that, again, is a simple one, that the business of being at a university isn't simply going to lectures and labs and this kind of thing. As you well know, it is also, as it were, learning from each other, so to say, and this is best done in a community where people of the various disciplines mix up.
A community where different disciplines mix up, or to you and me, interdisciplinarity. But has this vision for the university been borne out? This film is the first in a series of 3 where I'm looking at interdisciplinarity here at Kent, its history, its future and how it works presently. We're going to start with some recollections from the university's early days, from the mid-1960s through to the 1970s. Just what made it all happen. The first and maybe most important thing is that Kent was set up with a college structure. Departments were a dirty word. The first college, Eliot, with its courtyards and huge dining hall, was home to academics from every sort of discipline. So academics from different disciplines couldn't fail to bump into each other.
The university was set up in colleges, which meant that in the early years, at any rate, you would often dine with other members of staff twice a week for high table or maybe for other times of the week. And you would therefore meet a great cross-section of the university.
But it wasn't just the physical structure of these collegiate courtyards that helped to foster collaboration. Great attention was paid to who was recruited.
That the people who appointed at the university in those days appointed people with very varied backgrounds, many from, like me, from the States or from different places, and they appointed young people, nearly all young people. And this, I think, made a difference in the sense that they did not come with stone, hard, set views.
The members of staff who were interviewed in the earliest days all had to express their support of the idea of interdisciplinarity. And when I joined the university, the Faculty of Science was physics, chemistry and mathematics. That was it. Mathematics was part of the faculty at that point. The professor of physics actually had trained as an electrical engineer and had then become a theoretical physicist, a chemical physicist, an experimental physicist at various phases of his career. So he was certainly interdisciplinary in outlook. And the professor of chemistry, who became Dean of Science, was a radiochemist. He'd worked on the Manhattan Project as a chemist. And so he knew quite a lot about physics and was very numerate as well.
This broad knowledge in the teaching department gave rise to innovation in the curriculum. All students in their first 4 terms had to study a range of courses. In Humanities, for example, students had to study a course entitled Britain in the Contemporary World for the first 2 terms. This was followed in the next 2 terms by a range of courses, many of which were interdisciplinary.
The 2 that stick in the mind are Education and the Idea of Culture and Ancient Greece and the Modern World.
I was involved as I was in colonialism. Then this one called Sex, Literature and Morality, which is where I began my long-term interest in Edward Carpenter. So this was a very important foundation course for me.
There was a topic called Exploring Reality, which involved looking at literature, looking at film, looking at art, looking at physics and science. There were physicists involved.
So the physical structure of the university, the type of people recruited and the curriculum all combined to provide the conditions where interdisciplinarity could thrive. And then it was just up to the academics to put their heads together and follow their heart's desires.
I could do more or less as I wanted. I designed my own courses. For the first couple of them I had to write the textbooks because there wasn't a textbook available for the interdisciplinary approach I was using.
I wrote most of my first books actually on the visual arts, although visual arts were not taught as such at Kent at the time. So what I'm really saying is that the structure at Kent really allowed me the chance to expand not only in one direction but in several directions at once, and that's something which I think would have been quite impossible in the context of a traditional university, which at that stage, of course, meant basically just 3 or 4 universities which happened to be in England for a very long time.
I moved towards solids. Dave Jackson realised that there was far more opportunities by using what he knew as a measuring technique and in developing fibre optic sensors, which is what he did after a while. So there was that freedom to move, and it was up to you to work out how to do it.
When I was teaching 19th century drama, there was someone in French who had an interest in the musical background through Rousseau. So he came in and helped with the music, although he was French and wasn't music. And I was teaching drama, although I wasn't drama. And I think, had a rather interesting course.
Interdisciplinary courses in the 1960s and 1970s won many accolades for Kent. In some ways they helped to kick-start the university, enabling it to stand out as something new. Conditions today, however, are different from how things were back then, with a greater emphasis from students and employers on specialisation. In research, however, there's still a strong push for interdisciplinarity, with a recognition that some of the most interesting and productive discoveries happen where disciplines intersect. Kent has built on its interdisciplinary foundations to explore these intersections. How we're doing that and what we're achieving today is the subject of the next film.